I'm Jamie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about the 4th episode of Series 17 of Taskmaster, and this one was probably my favourite episode yet out of Series 17. I just thought it was really good from start to finish, and we started with the prize task, possibly one of the best prize tasks we've ever had in terms of just how funny it was, and this was the greatest thing to give to a granny, and starting out strong with Nick's good luck potion, which started off being quite a nice thing and turned into something very dark and depressing and sad. Lots of funny expressions like, oh, when you're on the cusp, or you want some luck, and I just thought it just set the tone immediately that this prize task was just going to be hilarious and just wild and out there. And just immediately just shocking Greg as well, and this was just the start of it. Like, this wasn't even the worst one, this wasn't the craziest. Then going to Joanne's gold grills for the grandmother, and again, just think that you wouldn't associate with grannies at all, so it just was really funny. Her use of the phrase oral pride was insane, and I loved it. Just thinking that this would give you some sort of dignity. It did kind of link in some way in the fact that like old people generally have false teeth, so like why have normal false teeth where you can have these cool gold grills instead. So I liked that. Sophie again being on the same wavelength with that animal print onesie, something that's a bit fun in like older age and something that would really like separate you from all the other grannies and things like that. So I like the idea, the mention of slut dropping, which we then see her actually demonstrate after John's task. I love the way that she just didn't hesitate. It was like, oh, I don't know how to do slut drop. Do any of you know how to do it? And then immediately coming on and demonstrating multiple different ways that you can do it. Just absolutely hilarious. And on a side note, I really love her like jacket that she had on in this task, and in this whole episode, in fact. And yeah, I just thought just absolute chaos and just so funny and such a fantastic way to start the episode. And then we kind of went into the more sweet ones, so like John's, which was the nice shopping list and things that he'd get for the gran who lived next door. Again, kind of adding into that like funny aspect with the fact that it was wine, cigarettes and chocolate. So like it still wasn't 100% pure, but still like really nice and sweet with a really nice story behind it. Steve's as well, I thought was just fantastic. Again, getting us there with like the sweet things with the like really nice poem from like a very young Steve, and yeah, just very nice. And then going into the really weird, disturbing card that he made, and yeah, just overall everybody's attempt here and either like the story behind it or the actual prize, just not what you would expect whatsoever. And it seems like everybody just had really like a lot of fun with this one and thought, oh, I won't go sweet, I'll go with something a bit dark, or go with something a bit weird. And the fact that everybody did that, kind of minus John, was just fantastic. Just an absolutely brilliant prize task. And just especially as the prize task is a lot of the time one of the weaker aspects in terms of like how much effort they put into it, and like the comedy value you get from it. This was just fantastic. Like I haven't laughed that much in a prize task for so long, and like consistently with everybody's attempts. Like there've been funny moments, funny things that people have brought in, funny stories behind the items, but this was just like hilarious from start to finish, and just I loved it. It was so good. I love that Greg just had no idea what to do with the scorings, but I do agree with the way he scored this. Joanne was the only one I was a bit sure about. It just seemed a bit harsh bringing in one, and maybe would have put her and Sophie on the same level. The episode continued really strongly with the first task, which I think was an amazing task, and it was this shaking the hands, trying to work out what was in the gloves and also what it all linked together as. They only had 20 minutes to do this, and they rules there that you couldn't look over, you couldn't do things like that. This was a really fun task, one that I would have liked to have a go at myself. Every season they have some sort of task where they have to identify things, whether that be through tasting or smelling, and I like that this had the different edition of like the feeling and that kind of idea. And yeah, I thought this was fantastic. The element of that they could cut 3 gloves, I think, except if the siren went off, which immediately would make me think, well, there's definitely somebody's real hand in one of the gloves. The fact that you had to, like, the health and safety alarm that they had. Again, they seem to be really, I'll mention it later on as well, but like they definitely seem to have more stretch with the health and safety. It seemed like at one point they had to be quite tame with things, but they are definitely adding those things in. I loved the addition of the alarm. Didn't get to be used, but yeah, that immediately would make me think that there is definitely a hand behind one of those, like a real one, and to be careful, or at least to have that, like to expect it. Because everyone seemed really, really shocked when there was a real hand, but it's like, why else would there be a health and safety alarm that would make you stop cutting off fingers? But I loved everyone's reaction to it, especially John's. Like, he was absolutely hilarious when he found out that it was a real hand, and Joanne as well, almost breaking the poor person's hand. Definitely my favourite task that we've had in this series, I think, so far. I just loved it. I love this kind of task. The puzzling element to it. Just everybody's reactions to all the things that were found in it, especially like Joanne with the egg when it like exploded at the end, the fingernails, like even though they're not real fingernails, obviously, just the look of it was disgusting. The rum in Nick's attempt where it looked like it was weeing on him and he immediately just went to drink it. So many funny moments, and I just thought it was a really, really well designed task, because you also had the contestants trying out like their weird handshakes, like John vigorously shaking the hands, which looked really dodgy, and Joanne rubbing the hands weirdly and smelling them, which I do think was a good idea, even though I know the overwhelming smell would be off the rubber gloves. But like the egg, I imagine you'd be able to smell. I don't know. There was some more great editing in this, with when Steve thought the onions were light cheese and immediately cut to John straight away, knowing that they were pickled onions. And again with the editing, they again edited out Nick's reflection in the water that was on the floor. Just absolutely amazing. I love that. I hope they keep that going throughout the whole series. It seems like the editors are just having so much fun with it. Just this idea that he won't be able to have a reflection because he's Dracula. Just amazing, and I love the dedication to it, because that must be so tricky to do. But I love that they're just going with it and just having fun. It's so good. I don't think there was like actually much creativity the contestants could have in how they would approach the task. Like, it's pretty straightforward. There were some elements of it with Nick doing like a little cut and putting the plaster on, and you know, the different types of handshakes that they use and things like that. But I think Steve definitely distracted himself a bit by trying to come up with the weird names. I felt like his focus was too much on that rather than actually figuring out what was inside the things, which, you know, didn't work in his favour because he came last in this one, I think. I feel like he definitely messed himself up by doing that. Like, I thought some of his guesses, he just kind of went, he didn't look at anything as much as I thought he would, especially with the light cheese. Like, you know, as he said, just one smell would have made him realise it was pickled onions. But yeah, just John didn't even have to look at them, just the feel of it, he knew exactly what it was. But I did think it was quite tricky. Three cuts was quite tough. I'm surprised the xylophone, like, I think you would have been able to felt that was a xylophone. And the real hand, that didn't need a cut. Shouldn't have had a cut, obviously. And maybe they thought, oh, the egg, if you get one egg, you'll get the other, maybe. I don't know. But I liked that it pointed to Alex Horne. I think that's something that is relatively simple for the contestants to work out, rather than somebody that they perhaps didn't know, somebody that they like wouldn't have thought about again, I guess. Like, it's somebody that they all would know because he's there. So it's not too difficult to get to that if you've got like half of the things worked out. But then you do have the funny element of Joanne not knowing what Alex's surname was, which is just hilarious. Overall, Nick won this task. Do you think he should have got disqualified or knocked off a point for doing that extra cut? I think he perhaps should have had that one deducted, maybe. I definitely do agree with awarding Joanne for getting Alex Horne as like the who you give a handshake to, over just how many individual things you get. I did feel bad for John though, because there is just this running thing of him being like obviously stressed out by the tasks and then being on his mind all the time from like the recording of the tasks to the live show. It's obviously that like he really wanted to kind of do well, I guess, or perhaps that's just his personality where he's just kind of like stressing about it and things. Like, I would be exactly the same as him, I know that for sure. The next task was to create the biggest and best dot-to-dot drawing. This again taking place in this big field that they've got, And straight away, I am so surprised that they were able to work around those horses. As I mentioned in the studio afterwards, like all the health and safety stuff they have to do, all the forms they have to sign, all the kind of like restrictions that there are, the fact that they were able to just go around wild horses, like, you know, one kick and you can be severely injured. I was very, very surprised at that. I don't know, I kind of got the feeling that the contestants were a bit uncomfortable being around all the horses. I don't know, I think I would have been uncomfortable working around them. I love horses, but like to be so close to a group of them, because they can be quite territorial, and I don't know, I feel like it could have gone badly. I don't know, it's such a weird thing to have, especially because they're not involved in the task. Like, it's different to the task we had in series 1, where they had to just ride a horse in a very controlled environment, to then just being hit, go in a field with this bunch of horses and work around them, putting things on the ground, making it feel like you've got food there. They made it as safe as they could make it, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to do it. But yeah, it did seem a bit shocking to me. Aside from that, this was a really, really fun task, really creative, a nice art task that's so different from all the other art tasks that we've had. I love the montage of them creating. There's some really funny moments with the horses, like the one where it farted on Sophie, Steve stepping in the poo at the end, the way they were talking to the horses was really sweet. So I did enjoy the task. And the dot to dot drawing is kind of a drawing that you have to think about in a different way, like creatively. Like, you're not thinking about, like, it's just more difficult, if that makes sense, to like envision it. But I do like the dot to dot drawing. Again, it's a very classic thing. And I love Steve's, like, they didn't pick up on it in the studio, I don't think, but Steve's like, oh, sitting on Granny doing dot to dot, drinking the potions. Like, that was just a really good callback to the prize task, and no one in the studio seemed to pick up on it. But I like that they included it in the edit. I thought it was really funny. But even though this is quite difficult, there were some amazing attempts. We're going to start with Nick's though, because Nick's was absolutely hilarious. Amazing from start to finish. The people's guesses of being like a balloon or an oboe, just really, really funny. And Nick saying, oh, when you know what it is, it will be really obvious, like you'll be kicking yourself. And then being like, oh, it's a really happy snake, even though there is no indication of it being happy whatsoever, because it's just a dot as the face. Just perfect, just amazing. And he seemed, it was like, well, yeah, it's obvious, it's a happy snake. Just thought it was fantastic, so funny. And like the scale was impressive, like how far he had to walk. So like it was impressive in that aspect, but not very good in terms of the actual drawing. And then immediately contrasted with John's snail, absolutely amazing. And at first, like when I was looking at them at the end when we saw everybody's, I was like, oh no, we'll get on to Sophie's, but like, oh no, Sophie's has to definitely win. But when they pointed out how big his was, and when I rewatched it, it's like, it was massive, and I definitely think he deserved to get 5 points on this as well. And Sophie as well deserved 5 points. So impressive. Like when it showed, like even just showing before it was dotted, just, I can immediately tell what it was. And it wasn't just like a basic cow, like it was like a Highland cow. It was just fantastic. And just so unexpectedly good. Like there was so much more detail than I was expecting in any of them. Just amazing. Steve's as well, I thought was really, really good. I did guess it was the Mona Lisa, only because like when you do a famous painting, it's going to be like the Mona Lisa or the Scream. So I knew it'd be one of them. And he did only get 3 points for this. I think he should have got 4, in my opinion, because the jump from Joanne's to Steve's is much greater than the jump from Steve's to Sophie's and John's. So I definitely think he should have got 4 points. I think he did get robbed of a point there. He definitely should have got 4. Like, it was a classic thing to do, and I think he did a decent job of it. Like, you could tell it was a painting of a person. Little things like he framed it, he signed it. I just think there was detail there that should have guaranteed him 4 points over 3. And then we ended with Joanne's moustache, which was pretty bad. Like, I don't want to be mean, but it was pretty bad. But I do think there was more effort put in than Nick's, so I definitely agree with it getting 2 points instead of 1. But yeah, the three best ones were just so much better than I thought they'd be able to do. The next task was where they were given half of a task and they had to find the other half and complete what it said. This one I liked, but I think it could have been a lot stronger than how they did it. The idea behind it being this like scavenger hunt where you had to work out where the other half of the puzzle was and you had to complete it. Like the idea was really good, but I think a few things kind of let them down. Like the wording on the back, like the numbers and everything, I don't think there was no chance that I would have been able to get to what that was hinting at. And the fact that it was hinting at just where the clue was, like, I just don't think it was that good of a clue to have on the back. Like, it was more of a red herring, which I guess worked in a sense because it got both the teams focused on the clocks and everything, which was really funny. And, you know, it worked in that aspect. But I just think it could have, I don't know, it just seemed impossible to get. Like, when it was revealed, I was like, oh, okay, it was nothing really then. It wouldn't have really helped. I really did like the addition of them being made to hold hands for a big part of it. And also the fact that I had to eat the cake. Like, there were funny parts of it. And I think the contestants' attempts were funny, particularly Steve and Nick. The fact that they just seemed like a lovely couple going about their day reminded me of David and Joe from series 9. It really reminded me of that, and I loved that dynamic. And I like that we've got it again. And they're definitely my favourite duo, favourite team in this series. I just think their dynamic is really fun. And they just seem to just be really enjoying themselves and having just a good time, which I absolutely love. I love that they got stuck on the clock, like I mentioned, like this idea of it being to do with time. The way they took the pendulum out of the grandfather clock was just hilarious. Like, just when you are looking for things, you're going to see things that aren't to do with it at all, if that makes sense. Like, they saw what they wanted to see and thought it was a clue, and it was just really, really funny. The team of 3 was actually more tamed than I thought they would be in this task. Like, I thought it'd be carnage. But I guess Joe and Joanne are typically quite level-headed when it comes to the tasks, and Sophie's the wild card, but she was, again, just on it in this task. So as a team, they did work very well together. I love John eating the cake. Like, he was on it until it came to cake, and then he got distracted by that. So I did really enjoy both teams' attempts. I don't know, but to me, it just didn't last long enough, like the task. Like, they could have had more steps to it. It was just finding a piece of paper and then doing what the piece of paper said to do. So I definitely felt like there could have been more additions to it. Yeah, I just felt a bit let down. It's like, oh, is that it? They've done it? Like, I kind of had that effect to it. So this was definitely the weakest task in this episode for me, even though typically this would be one of the strongest ones. Like, I do like the scavenger hunt, escape room style tasks. But yeah, as I said, this one just didn't have much to it. It was quite simple, just not as effective as the other ones. Then we had the studio task. Again, I think this was quite a good studio task. After episode 2, I did think the studio task might be a bit weak this season, but I did really enjoy last episode's one, and this one I thought was quite fun as well. This is a simple one that everyone can do at home. I wouldn't be surprised if it is in like the Taskmaster board game or one of the Taskmaster books. This is definitely a task that anyone can do and have a go at. And definitely one that I think, if it's not already incorporated into the Taskmaster board game or like home tasking or anything like that, then it will be in the future. Because at first I did think it was quite an easy one, but the addition of if it breaks, then you have to hold your hands up for 10 seconds. And I loved how stressed Alex was. You can sense that he wasn't expecting it to break as much as it did. But that added to the chaos with just toilet paper everywhere, Alex shouting at the contestants, everyone just kind of being confused about when they could put their hands down. Just fantastic. I really, really liked it. And I liked that it seemed to go on for a while. So again, it'd be quite fun for the audience to watch. So yeah, the actual task, it's good. I don't know how I feel about the scoring, because on one side, it makes sense. Joanne got the toilet roll completely clear, so she proved it could be done. But again, she was quite slow, so I understand why everybody else didn't do it. But then on the other hand, it's like disqualifying 3 people, like that's really, really harsh. And perhaps Greg didn't quite realise how harsh he was being when he made that ruling, and the fact that only Joanne would get points. Nick, I definitely think, shouldn't have got points. I think his was really stretching the rules. Again, decent idea if he had stretched it, taken the toilet roll apart and kind of passed it through in a sense, instead of just putting the toilet roll on top of the rest of the toilet paper. Good idea, bad execution, in my opinion, with Nick's one. He could, if he did it good, he'd have grounds to argue for it, but I just don't think he did. But yeah, I did feel really bad for the other 3. I really thought Joanne would win this episode, but it is John again winning. So this is 2 for Steve and 2 for John. John is now in the lead in the series. Joanne in second place. Steve in third, which I am really surprised about. He has really dropped the past few episodes. He started off the series really strong, but yeah, I don't know, he seems to be dropping in points quite a bit. Again, still all to play for with these three. Joanne, yet to win an episode, but is in second place, so I definitely think she's going to win an episode at some point soon. Not sure about Sophie and Nick. They seem to do really well in some tasks and then let them down in other tasks. Both of them have struggled to have a consistent episode so far. But yeah, as I said, it's probably my favourite episode, particularly with the prize task, the drawing dot-to-dot task, and the handshake task. I thought all of those three were really strong, and the final task as well. Just that middle task, the scavenger hunt one, it just, as I said, it could have been built up on a bit better. Like, it felt a bit rushed, which is a bit of a shame because I think it would have been really good. If you liked this video, then please leave a like. It really helps the channel, and comment down below your thoughts on episode 4 of Taskmaster Series 17. We're getting really close to halfway. It's going really, really quickly, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I hope you are too. Subscribe if you want to see more videos to do with Taskmaster. I'll have some more out for you soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!